guys. Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Called and Creative podcast. I am your host, Courtney Miller, owner of Miller Image and Motion.
And I'm your other host, Michaela Steek, owner of Till the Dawn Photo Company.
And today we're going to talk about top 5 to 6 things that you should have on your website as a photographer. So I figured to just start this off, we could kind of just talk to you guys about how we do our websites, what we have them through, things like that. So Michaela, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so my website situation recently changed. I personally have everything through Sessions right now, just because it's kind of an all-in-one platform. So I can do my booking, my website, my invoicing contracts, literally everything that I do is right there on one platform. The reason that I do it this way is not because it's superior. It's because it's all in one and it's much more price friendly than what I was doing before. And the reason that I do this is because I only take a handful of sessions a month because I also shoot real estate full time. And so Monday through Friday, I'm shooting real estate. In the summertime, that could be like 8, 10 plus houses a week. I just don't have the time to do a bunch of sessions on top of that. And so I only take a handful a month. And so it just didn't make sense financially for me to have a full website set up that's costing a ton every single month when I don't really need it to convert the number of sessions that I'm actually doing. And so that is why I switched to sessions. I really enjoy it. Um, it is like it's not as high tech or have as many capabilities as something like Show It would, which is what I used before. There's no blogging, there's no SEO, there's none of that. But for me, I am primarily getting my bookings from social media. I just have that link in my bio, and that's where people like find me and book me from. And so all of the SEO and the blogging, all of that is not necessarily something that I need at this very moment. However, if I was in that season where I was booking a lot of sessions or trying to, I would probably go with Show It, which you can kind of talk about because I know that's what you use too.
Yes, so I currently use Show It, and I really love it. Before that, I used Pixie Set because they kind of have a little bit of an all-in-one platform now, in my opinion. Because I know you can do like contracts and invoices
Mhm.
and galleries and things through them, and then you can also host your own website through them as well. And for several years, that's what I used. And honestly, I was even still when I left, I was very impressed with what you could do with the Pixie Set website
Mhm.
because they had SEO, they had blogging capabilities. For the most part, like, yeah, you could start with a template and then kind of move things around. But for me, the main reason that I left and decided to move to Show It was because my bachelor's degree is in multimedia, and probably 60 to 75% of that was website design. And so, for me personally, I wanted to be able to have something that I could, entirely make myself from scratch. I could move anything on the page wherever I wanted it to be, and I could really kind of make it my own, like, space on the internet. And so, I decided to switch to Show It for that reason only. But honestly, I really love it. I felt like, for me, anyways, coming from a background of website design, it was super simple for me to pick up. And
Mhm.
anything that I was confused about how to do, a 5 second Google search, helped me figure it out how I needed to do it. And so I really like Show It. It did take me a little longer to fully build my website out, but I feel like I have complete control over it now. And honestly, for me personally, I feel like my inquiries significantly increased after I launched that website as
Mhm.
my main website. Not that I had bad inquiries, when I had Pixie Set, because I still had good inquiries. But I think they definitely increased a lot when I switched to Show It. And I think that probably had more to do with, some of the SEO capabilities on Show It versus on Pixie Set, which I
Mhm.
know a lot of people like don't understand fully because there's so much that you can do with SEO, but it really does help.
Now, did you build yours? like from scratch, or did you buy a template, or did you use a free template?
So I purchased a template, but I changed it significantly. So in
Mhm.
my opinion, I kept maybe 25 to 30% of it. And
Mhm.
the main reason that I bought it was for some of the like graphic designs that it had. It
Mhm.
had these super cute like little Polaroid picture frames that came in it, and I just
Fun.
loved how they had it designed. And so I loved the headers that they had with those. And so that was the
Mhm.
main reason that I bought it. And then I kind of just I uploaded it into Showit, and then I kind of changed it from there and just really made it my own. And I think you can kind of tell that it's the same like template if you look at them back and forth, mainly from like the
Mhm.
headers with like the way they had the little like Polaroid pictures on there and stuff. But for the most part, I really did. I changed a lot. The fonts are not the same, the colors are not the same, even the layouts are not the same.
Mhm.
Um, so I did change a lot of it, but I did start with a template.
How much did you spend on your template? I'm just curious.
I think I spent 400, I think, on
Okay,
it.
that's about the range I was
Yeah,
thinking.
which I think is about the range for most of the templates that I was
Mhm.
seeing for Showit. Really anywhere from like the cheaper side being like 250-ish all the way up to like there were some that were like 1,000,
Yeah.
$1,500. Honestly, I know enough about websites and like designing them to be dangerous, and so for me, like I wasn't interested in spending $1,500 on a template
Right.
when I know full well that I was going to change a bunch of stuff. But I mean, for somebody who maybe isn't quite as confident in that aspect, or if they looked at the template and literally all they wanted to do was change the copy and change the pictures,
Mhm.
that would definitely probably be a lot more worth it for somebody like that.
Yeah, so when did Showit, I switched to Showit right after I went full time, and I ended up picking a template based on like the vibe that I wanted my brand to take on. Because I did a full like revamp, like I did new name, new logos, new, brand suite with colors and fonts and all the things. And so
Same,
I
which
picked
I
the
think is the
template.
right way to like do it,
Yes,
like
do it
do
all
it
at
all
once.
at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I picked the template specifically for the vibe and the work that I wanted to, like, showcase, and so I ended up spending, I wanna say 650 on mine, and
That's
I
not
wanna
bad
say
either.
I did it where I think I bought it on Etsy, if I remember right, and I think they have, like, a payment plan, so I didn't have to pay for it all upfront, which was really helpful since I had just gone full time and, like, I didn't have a lot of income yet, um but that's how I did it, and mine was pretty much like I changed the copy, I changed the photos, and I kind of started there so that I had a good website in place. And then I continually, like throughout the years, like changed it, um, changed the photos, changed the layouts, added pages where I needed them, and I just kind of let it be an ongoing process, which was really helpful because the website I had before was just a very basic pixie set, like template that I hadn't put a lot of work into. And so starting with that was very, very helpful. But I will say, I really wanted to do like a customized website, like through a designer and everything. Um, I did get burned once, probably about a year earlier before I did my show at website. I think I paid like $1,500 and I was supposed to get like a full brand suite. I was supposed to get a fully customized website, all of the things. And she ended up building my website on Wix, which was not what I wanted.
Ooh.
I wanted it on Showit. Um, it was not customized at all. It did not look, I mean, anywhere near what her other work looked like that she had shown me as her examples. And really just ended up kind of getting scammed out of it, and so which was a big bummer, but also I learned, like, if you don't invest like, I didn't invest what I should have invested in a custom website, like, all the other quotes I was getting was, like, $5,000, and so I chose the cheaper end, and what do you get when you do that? So, that's kind of on me. I've lived, I've learned, I've gone through it all, and so now I know better, but once I got to the point of, like, switching to show it fully, I knew, like, okay, I can either spend 650 on a template, a really good template, and then spend my time making it what it needs to be, or I can spend $5,000 and maybe I get what I want, maybe I don't. And so for me, it was more worth the time investment than the money investment. So that's kind of how I ended up going with a template.
Yeah, that's frustrating when you spend all that money thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And then, you know, you get
Yeah.
burned in the back end. That's so hard.
Yeah. Looking back, like there were all the red flags, but I was just young and naive and I didn't know any better. And so,
I
like
think
I
we've
said,
all
you
been
live
there
and you
at some
learn,
point.
but it
Yeah.
stings.
All right, so that kind of naturally brings us into some of the topics that we're going to talk about. The first thing that I think that you should have on your website is your name, your face, and your business name. And the reason being is because people want to know who you are, first and foremost. They want to know what it is that you do, they want to know why you do what you do. They just honestly, in my opinion, seeing your face, it connects people with you as a person, and it feels less like being involved in this big business and more like, oh, I'm going to, invest in this person so that they can help me, you know, get whatever it is with my branding session or with my family photos. I feel more connected to them and I'm more likely to spend money because I can actually see that they're a real person and not some giant corporation.
Right. That's something that I tell not only photographers, but other business owners, specifically like service based business owners, is that there are a million options similar to you. Like photographers, if you're not a photographer, like I would say clients may look at your work and they may look at my work and be like, ah, those are pretty similar because we both are on like the darker, more moodier side.
Yep.
To a photographer, obviously, we look very different, but to a
Hmm.
client, like, they see 10 of the same option because their style of work is very similar. What they need to make a decision on who to work with is who they trust the most, who they feel most connected to, who they feel like is gonna help them the most and help them be the most confident, comfortable. If they aren't seeing your face and they're not hearing your voice and they don't know who you are, there's no connection, like, you're gonna lose them so quick. And also,
I
people
completely
buy
agree.
from people they like. If they don't
Yes.
like you as a person, they're probably not going to buy from you. And so,
Yep.
if they don't have the opportunity to get to know you and like you, like, you are losing it's like a 50-50 shot at that point, you know? And so,
Yep.
putting in the effort, not only on your website, but in your social media posts and how you show up online in general, like, you need to put an effort to make sure that your audience knows who you are.
I completely agree.
I think that's a mark that a lot of business owners miss, in my opinion.
Another one that a lot of business owners, photographers, or anyone else for that matter, miss a lot, in my opinion, is where you're located in the area that you
Mhm.
serve. If I can't immediately go on your website and within the first 5 seconds figure out where you're at or what area you serve, I'm going to go on to the next person because
Right,
why would I waste my time looking through your work, falling in love with it, only to find out that you're 3 states away from me? You
right.
know? If I'm trying to purchase something from someone who it needs to happen in person, if it's not something I can purchase online and do entirely anywhere, if I have a photo shoot, I have to physically be in person with them.
Mhm.
So if I go on somebody's website and I can't figure out, oh, they're in my area so I can actually work with them, why would I waste my time falling in love with their
Right.
work only to be disappointed that I can't work with them?
And social media too, you know, like, your bio should
Definitely.
specifically state, like, "This is the area I'm in," and Facebook, put it in your bio and put it in, like, your little service there's, like, a bar in that shows, like, your website, your phone number, all of those things. You should have a location in that, like, it's a spot to put your location in. Like, that is so, so important. Like, I personally, as a mom, like, looking for family photos or newborn photos or whatever we've needed over the years. Like have looked for photographers and found somebody and been like, "Oh my gosh, I love their work. I'm really excited to reach out to them." Guess what? They're literally in like Texas or they're literally in Missouri, like states away from me. Like they're not going to be able to do my newborn photos, you know? And so
Yep.
it can be so
It's so
frustrating from a
frustrating
client
too.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like do yourself a favor, put your location everywhere.
Yes. Plus, it helps with your SEO.
Mhm.
It's very natural because if you have it all over your website, I'm based in Tulsa, I'm from Tulsa, I'm serving the Tulsa
Mhm.
area. I'm just using that for an example since that's where we're at. But if you have that all over your website, that is so good for your natural SEO
Right.
because when people type in Google searches or whatever they're using to search for things, if they type in, you know, newborn photographer for Tulsa, you're more likely to pop up if you have it all over your website saying that you're from Tulsa and that you serve the Tulsa area.
Right. And even if you don't live, like for me, for example, I live outside of the Tulsa metro area. And so what I do is my like Google business profile shows the actual town that I live in. I wanna say my Facebook shows, like, the actual town that I live in, but then the copy on, like, my website and my bios and all of that say Tulsa area because I serve the entire Tulsa area. I just live in this specific, spot in the metro area. And so I think for what that's helped for me is when people, like, where I live, type in, like, "photographer in this town," I pop up because it's a smaller town, there are not a lot of photographers here, and the photographers that do live here, a lot of them don't put the specific town that they live in. They put Tulsa or they put Tulsa metro area, and so people in my community, they might want somebody specifically who's, like, local here. So I've gotten a ton of bookings through Google specifically because they've looked for someone really local. And so that can help to like get both of those things. So like the area and like the specific community that you live in.
Definitely. I think people get so caught up in like, oh, SEO sounds so complicated. But
Right.
honestly, it really doesn't need to be. I mean, it's really just the search engine reading what's on your website.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
really in a nutshell, like super broken down and like
Uh-huh.
simplified. That's really all it is. It's just
Right.
reading what's on your website. So if you put where you're at, and I guess this kind of brings us to our next point is make sure that you put what you specialize in or the things that you shoot
Mhm.
because if you naturally put on there, I do for example newborns or maternity, anything motherhood related. If you don't have that on your website, you might be getting inquiries for stuff that you don't even shoot because you have people coming to your website and they fall in love with your work and they're confused about what it is that you
Right.
do because you didn't specifically say, "Oh, I do these three things." And so again, you could be leading the wrong clients to you and or turning the right clients away.
Mhm. Well, that's another good point is even if you do shoot a little bit of everything, like it's hard to SEO that. And so
It is.
like, picking a few things that you really focus on and shoot the most of or want to shoot the most of, like, make that your main, like, focus and the focus of your website and your SEO, and then when those other things pop up, take them, you don't have to say, "No, I'm not gonna do your family because I'm a newborn photographer," or, "I'm not gonna do your newborn because I'm a branding photographer." Like, you can still take things as they come up if you want them, but it's good to have a few things that you specialize in so that when people are looking for you for the things that you enjoy, it's easier to grab that sale. So, our next point is a question and answers page. And for me, I think this is very, very important. Courtney and I actually had a conversation right before we recorded about how I've gone from like, just pricing on my website, um, or I have gone to just pricing on my website with question and answer, like a page for that, from doing a full info guide. And so when I started, like when I went full time, I went through a full 6 month coaching program for photographers specifically. And I learned so much in that coaching program. It has really helped me like become the business owner that I am today. But there are certain things that I learned in that coaching program that I really took to heart for a long time that didn't serve me long term. And one of those things is a pricing guide. And so a big thing that we were supposed to do is, you know, starting prices on your website and then a full pricing guide that you send to them after they reach out to you. Um, and besides the point of, pricing, the issue that I had was all of the information about booking with me, who I was, all of the questions of like, when will I get my photos or do you travel? All of those basic questions, they were answered in that guide. But the issue was people are not reading. They were flipping to the pricing page, and then from there, they were done reading. They would just message me those specific questions where those questions were answered, but they weren't getting to the right person, or they weren't getting to anybody really because it was just too long of a process to get to those questions. And so what I have learned is having a very specific questions and answers page, even if it's just like 4 or 5 different questions that you answer, is super important. And for me, those are right under my packages. And so when you go on my booking page, you see all of my packages with the pricing and what's included. And then right under that is all of my like most asked questions with a very specific answer to it. So, um, let me just pull mine up real quick. I have an idea in my head of what they are. I just can't remember exactly. Okay, so my FAQs page is just you scroll down to the bottom of the page and there they are. So if you're naturally scrolling, looking at all of my options, they're boom gonna pop up before you click out of it. And so my FAQs are: what kind of sessions do you photograph? How do I book a session? Where are you located? What happens if the weather is bad? Can I bring outfit changes? How long until I receive my photos? How will I receive my photos? And do you travel? And I chose those questions because those are the questions that people over the years naturally come to me with after seeing that pricing. Like those are my most asked questions. And so if you can get those out of the way from the get-go, I feel like it kind of creates this like trust of, oh, you're going to educate me about the whole process from the very beginning, and just kind of gets them more acquainted with you and your business right up front. So you can more focus on, I guess, more of the client relationship aspect and not like the basic questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and kind of getting more in depth with like planning the session too, which I
Right.
think, in my opinion, really helps the client experience because a lot of my clients, they love it when I really get in depth with like, I help them plan outfits, I help them plan the location, and
Mhm.
then, the two of those working together. And, the time of year, depending on, what it is that they're wanting. Most of my clients, they really love it when I help them with those types of things. And I actually think it kind of goes back to creating some trust, between you and the client as well, because when you are able to help them with things and explain why you think this would be a good idea to do, they feel more like, okay, she's got this, she knows what she's doing. Like, I know my photos are going to turn out amazing. And I think it helps them kind of calm some of those nerves of like, man, I invested a bunch of money. I don't know if I'm going to get anything good out of this. Like, them potentially showing up to the session nervous that it's not going to go well, things like
Yep.
that. I think it just really helps.
Yeah, and I can even speak to that from like a client perspective. I've worked with some photographers where I have hoped to have like kind of that experience of them wanting to like talk to me about outfits and location and like helping me plan, which I'm a photographer. I get that. And I'm very upfront with that because I don't want people to think like, oh, she's a photographer, like she's going to judge me or anything like that. Like, no, I tell them like, hey, I'm a photographer, but I want the help. Like, I want the experience. And it's hard to like picture yourself and your own family in the same way that you would another family. And so I like that client experience. And I have had experiences where I didn't get any experience at all. It was literally pay, book, sign a contract, and then I don't hear from them until the day before the session when they check in, and then boom, session over. And so through those experiences, like, I've learned how enjoyable it is to, like, get to know them along the way and have them be invested in your experience and planning the session and kind of creating a story with the process. And so, like, because of those experiences as a client, I have taken that to heart, and it's really, really important to me to help them plan.
So, going right along with the question and answer, it's also really important to have a contact page and tons of links to your contact page. Because if you have every single thing that we have talked about so far, you have who you are, what your business is, who you serve, where you serve, all of those things on there, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever within your business if you don't have some way to tell people this is how you book a session with me, or this is how you get in touch with me to book your session. So you have to have something that you naturally lead them to for them to be able to get their information to you to book a session. So for me, on my contact page, let me just pull it up really quick and I'll tell you all the things that I have on mine. So I always ask for their name, their email address, their phone number, the type of session that they're looking for. And then if it's a wedding, I have their fiance's name, if they're inquiring for a wedding. And then if it's for a wedding, to put their wedding date, because I found that is a huge issue that I think a lot of people leave off if you do weddings, because that can tell me right then and there when they fill out the contact form if I can even entertain like speaking with them. Because if I have a wedding inquiry come in and they don't put the date, and then we get all the way to like, okay, we're ready to sign the contract and pay the invoice, and then you say, great, when is your wedding date? And then only to find out that it's a date that you're already booked, you just wasted both not only your time but the client's time as well. And now they're really bummed because they've fallen in love with your work, they've fallen in love with you, and you could have known from the very beginning that you couldn't have even helped them, you know?
Right.
So for me, that's a really big one if you take weddings. Um, and then I also have, if it's a wedding, where will it be? And if it's not a wedding, do you have a specific location in mind? And then I also have a how would you like to contact, or how would you like us to contact you? And for me, that is why I ask for both email and phone number. And the reason being is because they can choose whether they would like me to text them or to email them. And I've found that most of my clients really appreciate having that option. I would say probably 80 to 85% of them choose text message. And a lot of them, like as we're texting back and forth, they're like, thank you for being willing to text because I never check my email, or vice versa. You know, I've found that clients are either one or the other. They're either fully like they want to text about everything or they want to email about everything. And so for me, I really love having the option to do both. It just makes sense in my head. If that is overwhelming for you, then just ask for email. Don't bother asking for a phone number, and don't even ask how you'd like to be contacted if email is the only way that you do it. But for me
I will
personally,
hot take
I'm
you on
fine with
that
that.
one.
Yeah.
My hot take would be, even if you only want to email, ask for their phone number anyways. Reason being is I like to do everything on email just because a lot of my emails that I send out, like throughout my client experience, are very long. It would be a lot of information to send like in one text message, and I may have like some links or some like attachments that need to go with that email. And so for that reason, I do prefer email, um, which is fine. Email's great. However, there have been so many times where people have said, like, oh, I don't check my email or I don't check it very often. And a lot of times I would send off an email to never get a response. And then if I would check in, a week or two later, I would send a text message and be like, hey, I reached out to you a couple weeks ago via email. I just wanted to check in. Well, they already got another photographer who texted them instead, and that's how they got a hold of them. That's who they booked because that's who they talked to first. And so, what I personally do is I send the email because that's what I prefer, but then I also send a text message and just say, "Hey, this is Michaela at Till the Dawn. I just want to let you know that I've responded to your inquiry via email. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm available via email or here as well." That way, like, you give them the option, but still, like, are able to send out all of that massive information in an email, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess that kind of goes back to like what you're willing to do too, because I think I have talked to some photographers or some like business owners in general where like for them, it gets too overwhelming for them to like do anything, regarding text. And they
Mhm.
only want to do it through email, which for me personally, it's the exact opposite. I don't like doing email. I would prefer
Uh-huh.
things over text. And so that's why I offer like, do you want me to text you or do you want me to email you?
Mhm.
Um, but I guess that kind of just goes back to like whatever your preference is to keeping things organized. And you're totally right. Like for me personally, I would always ask for both the email and the phone number, but I don't think it's necessarily like wrong to do it one way or the other because again, it
Right.
kind of goes back to like who your ideal client is. Because if your ideal client is, you know, let's say for example, business owners who, are running their own business, they're more likely to be checking their email. And so maybe that's like, the main way that you communicate. I don't think there's a problem with that. But
Right.
in my opinion, a lot of my clients doing weddings and things like that, they're young couples who, yeah, they have an email address, and some of them do, like, that's how they want to communicate. But I would say most of them, they want to text back and forth. They want to know, like, as soon as possible, like, are you even available for our date? Because if not, I don't want to
Right.
fall in love with your stuff and then not be able to even, like, book with you because you're not available. And so
Yeah.
for them, like, that's a lot easier for the both of us for me to just send one text and be like, thank you for reaching out. I am available or I'm not available. And then it kind of just goes from there for me. It's a fairly natural way, in my opinion, for my
I think it
workflow.
kinda depends on the timeline too. Like, I've had situations where someone's like, "I had a baby 3 days ago, and I need newborn pictures immediately," or I need a fresh 48, or I've even had elopements of like, "Hey, we're eloping this weekend, like, are you available?" And at that point, like, I'm either texting them or calling them so that we can, like, get it together, like, immediately and get it figured out. Whereas if you're booking, months in advance, like, you probably have time to, like, type out a very thoughtful email and send them all these things, and you just have the time and then to check in with them if you don't hear back, and so I think it kinda depends on what you're doing as well.
Definitely.
Well, I guess this brings us into our last but probably hottest take of the episode is pricing. So the hot take with pricing is not necessarily what your pricing is or how much you're charging or what you're including. It is, are you including your pricing on your website and letting them see it all up front? Or are you offering a starting price or no price at all and forcing them to reach out to you in order to find out what you charge?
So, oh man, I feel like I've heard so many people, argue for both directions. I don't, in my opinion, whatever works for your business, that is the right thing for you.
Right,
And
that makes
if
sense.
it works for you to not include your pricing and to have people reach out and then you send them your pricing guide with all of the info, or you do a sales call with them where you give them all the information, you pitch, who you are, your business, your products, your services, things like that. If that works for you, that is great. Awesome. Keep doing that. For me personally, that doesn't work for me. So,
Mhm.
personally, I include all of my pricing on my website. I have all of the package options, what comes with it, the price for it. I even have information about like payment plans. And then obviously, if they want to get more in depth with like what a payment plan for their specific, session would look like, they do need to reach out to me
Right.
for that. because it's very like dependent on when you're doing it, what package you're going with, things like that. But otherwise, for the most part, if they go on my website and they do even just a little bit of scrolling, a little bit of looking, I want them to be able to easily find my pricing and my packages and what I offer, because in my opinion, it's not worth it for me to spend the time talking with someone to then get to the end of the conversation and find out that they're trying to book me for their wedding, but their budget all in is $1,500 and they're looking for 8 hours of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
That is not worth it to either of us. So for me, that's why I always include all of my pricing on my website, and I'm just very upfront about it. And honestly, I don't think it really has affected, I mean, maybe it has affected the total number of inquiries that I get every month, but it has significantly decreased the amount of inquiries I get that don't end up booking. So basically, what that means is like the inquiries that I am getting every month, a majority of them end up booking because they were able to see the information up front before reaching out to me. They knew that I was within their price range. They already had a general idea of we're thinking this package or this package. Sometimes they want my opinion on what they think would be better. And I love it when
Right.
couples do that, because it's just, if you tell me what you're wanting, I can better help you choose what it would be better for you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, they know I'm within their budget. They have an idea of what they're wanting. So we're able to immediately start the conversation of, tell me about your wedding. Tell me about you two. Tell me about what it is that you're wanting captured from your special day. And it's less money talk, if that makes sense.
Right. Now, do you do consultation calls before you book or only after you book? For
So it
weddings
really kind of
specifically, I
depends.
guess.
Yeah, so for weddings, for me personally, I don't require them just because I know a lot of the younger generations. I feel like this kind of includes me too. I get
Mhm.
like phone anxiety sometimes. And so for me, sometimes it's actually better to, just text back and forth and just ask a million questions that way, so that
Mhm.
it's like in writing and I can literally go back and like reread it or be like, oh, this is what we were talking about before. Like that answered my question. And I will say I have had some brides like that's what they want. They want to call me on the phone. They want to get on a Zoom call. They want to see my face. They want to, meet up for coffee and talk in person. I've had brides
Right.
that are like that, and I am totally fine with doing that. But for me personally, I don't require it just because I can usually get a pretty good idea with like from texting people whether or not like this is gonna work out.
Right.
Because like I said, because I have my pricing on my website, a lot of the people who are reaching out, they're already like, I love her work, she's within my budget, this is the package I'm thinking I want. And so we're already like a little farther into the natural like booking process, if that makes sense, than we would be if they just were filling out my contact form to get basic, pricing information, or packages or what I include, things like that.
Right. And I've kind of lived on both sides of the fence. I have never been the person that I have no pricing on my website whatsoever, require contact. And I will say part of that is because before I started taking on a lot of weddings, I was a bride myself. And I can tell you that there were photographers that they were set up that way. And I absolutely did not even contact them because it was like, if I can't even see your prices, like I'm not going to waste my time reaching out to you. And I knew that we were on a tighter budget. Like we weren't trying to spend $100,000 or anywhere. We didn't even spend $10,000, honestly. And so the type of photographer that is going to work that way is more of on the luxury side most of the time. And I knew that we didn't have the budget for a luxury photographer. And so, or quote unquote luxury. That's a whole nother topic I feel like we could cover.
Yeah,
But
it
um
definitely is.
the budget for that type of photographer was not there, and so that automatically cut out a lot of the people I contacted because they simply didn't have a price on their website. So I already had kind of had that situation as like a client or as a bride before, so I knew I didn't wanna do it that way. So for a long time, what I did was I had starting prices, and so I had, my elopement start at, say, $1,200, and then my full wedding start at, say, 2,500. And then I have 2, 4, 6, 8-hour packages available, and they include these things and kind of what to expect without, like, hard prices. And I would typically require a Zoom call, in order to book, and there have been occasions where maybe I've already shot with the couple before, like, maybe I did their engagement photos, or I just know them in real life, or maybe we just had so much conversation that I feel really comfortable going ahead and booking them without a call, but most of the time, they were just kind of people from the wild that I didn't know, like, I had no idea what to expect from them, and it was really important to me, not only that I vibed with them, but that they vibed with me, because I never want to show up to a wedding and then be, like, uncomfortable because we don't vibe, and so that was personally what I would typically require a call. Now I'm not doing weddings, or I'm phasing out of weddings, should I say. I'm still shooting a few this year, but I'm not really actively booking a lot of weddings, and so I've kind of phased out of that situation, and I am more just prices on the website, all my packages, what's included, the exact price, the payment plan options. It's all right there, and people can automatically go on and see, like, this is what to expect to spend. These are your options, and so you're right, it does cut a lot of that back and forth. And with sessions, I feel like you don't have as much time for that back and forth, whereas a wedding, like, maybe they're 6, 12 months out from their wedding day. You have a little bit of time to schedule a call, do that back and forth over text message, answer a ton of questions, get to know them. Like, you have time in that booking process to do all of those things, whereas if you're just taking sessions, they might need photos in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and you don't have as much time to pour into, like, that back and forth, and so cutting out a lot of that communication, it's can be really important, I would say.
Yeah, and I guess again, it kind of just depends on like who your client is and how you decide to run your business too
Mhm.
because again, like I think this is kind of a hot take as well, about the having a phone consultation as well as like your pricing and stuff. But
Right.
I don't know. I guess I personally, I just don't really feel like there's a right or a wrong way to do either of those. And I think whatever works for you and for your business and, you know, how you have it set up and who your clients are as well. I think those are like the biggest things that you have to think of when you decide, do I want to do a phone consultation? Do I want to have all of my pricing information on my website? Do I want people to have to reach out for that information? I think it just kind of goes back to who you are, who you serve, and how you would prefer to do it.
Yeah, and I guess if you think about it, like, a lot of the people that I serve are either moms with really young kids or, like, business owners, small business owners who are very busy just like I am, and those people, like, they don't have time for a consultation call. They might have a really hard time finding the time to book one if you require it, and they just don't the emails, like, the back and forth emails, they don't really have time for that, and so just quickly sending a text message and getting it all done, like, right then and there is so much more efficient for both of you, and I think if you kind of tailor your experience to, like, their life stage or what they need, like, they're gonna feel even more confident in you as a photographer and just as a human and, like, understanding their life stage and all of that. You guys are working on your websites this slow season. We actually offer a website audit. And this is super simple. You will simply fill out a form, give us your website URL, and then we will go through and actually create a video for you going through your full website, offering advice on it, things we would change. Um, Basically, all of the things that we talked about today and more, we're going to go in depth with you of how to make your website better, make your SEO better, all of the things. And so our website audit is $75, but for an additional 25, we will also include your Instagram and Facebook profiles as well. So not only are you getting an audit on your full website, you're also getting an audit on your social media pages and making sure that they really work together for your good. And so if you guys are interested in anything like that, want to talk more through it, what all of that looks like, our DMs are open. You'll just want to go to our Instagram page, The Called and Creative Education, and just send us a DM and let us know you're interested in a website audit.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode, and we really hope these few tips that we gave on websites really help you guys out during the slow season when you may be updating your website or making a new one. So stay tuned for more helpful tips, and can't wait to catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you guys for joining us. Bye.
Bye.